Joining us now live on the Newsline is Brad Brandon. Pastor Brandon is the founder and CEO of an organization called Across Nigeria. You learn more online at acrossnigeria.org. Pastor Brandon, good morning, and thank you for the time.
Hey, good morning, Jeff. It's good to be on with you.
It is a privilege to talk to you, not just because I know you're a good conversationalist, but heavens, the work that you're doing. Tell us about Across Nigeria. What is it, and how did you get involved?
Well, that's a long story. I'll keep it short. But Across Nigeria is basically an organization that helps persecuted Christians in northern Nigeria. Northern Nigeria right now is the most dangerous place in the world to be a Christian. In fact, back in 2022, 90% of all the Christians that were killed in the whole world, 90% of them were killed in northern Nigeria. Last year, that number was 70%. So the majority of Christians being persecuted and martyred for their faith is happening in northern Nigeria. So we go into those areas and we help persecuted Christians and people being persecuted, extract them out of those situations, and we also run a refugee facility that helps them restart their life.
I dare say that most folks listening to this conversation had very little idea, if any, about the plight of Christians in Nigeria. How did the situation get to be this dire?
The situation is extremely complicated, and in the last 10 years, it's only gotten more complex. Socioeconomic issues are really fueling the fire there. Also, groups like Boko Haram and ISWA, the Islamic State of West Africa, they're growing in number, they're growing in strength, they're getting resources from other Arab countries, and they are basically taking over the northern part of the country. And so all of that just contributes to the deterioration of the conditions in northern Nigeria, and it leaves a vacuum for radical Islamists to go in and do whatever they want to do.
Talk a bit about the people that you encounter. How do they live? How do they get sustenance, food, etc.? What kind of development is present in the country as a whole and in the northern part in particular?
Yeah, that's a great question. So most people in Nigeria, northern Nigeria particularly, live on about $1 a day. And if you can imagine this, a 16-kilo bag of rice costs about $80 to $90. So the price of food is constantly skyrocketing because of inflation. But the rate of pay and the amount that people are making in northern Nigeria is not even close to rising at the same rate. And so people are living in desperate conditions. They're in constant survival mode. In fact, that's what a lot of people are attracted to groups like Boko Haram and ISWA, because they can join a group like that. They can basically get a job, they can get fed, they can get resources, they can find a sense of belonging. And so it attracts a lot of young people in northern Nigeria. And so they join and become Boko Haram soldiers. But the conditions are extremely desperate. People starving, food shortages. Lots of people live in what they call IDP camps, which are internally displaced persons. There's camps of them all over Nigeria. And right now there's 3.7 million people living in those camps, and the conditions there are absolutely destitute.
We're speaking with Pastor Brad Brandon. The group is Across Nigeria. Acrossnigeria.org is the website. He joins us live on News Talk 1540 KXEL. People throw the word genocide around pretty casually these days in political discourse. This is the definition of it, is it not?
It really is. There's lots of different issues going on. Like I mentioned, Boko Haram, ISWA. There's also a group called the Fulani Muslims, which it's a little bit different because their conflict with Christians have to do with grazing cattle, and the Fulani Muslims are herders, they're cattle people. The Christians in that area are mostly farmers, and so there's obviously a conflict between cows and cattle going on and grazing on the fields and grazing on the crops, and so that creates another issue. And so what's happening is that the government, though, is turning a blind eye. A lot of the local governors of the states are Muslims and involved in radical Islam. And so they're turning a blind eye to what Boko Haram is doing, what ISWA is doing, and a lot of the Fulani Muslims are doing. And so they're allowing a genocide to happen right in their own backyard. And what's amazing to me is how many people I talk to here in the States who have no idea that this is happening, but it's there. There'll be a massacre of 200 people in 2023 on Christmas Day, Christmas morning. There was a massacre of about 240 Christians, and I don't think there was one news media outlet here in the U.S. that picked up that story. So what's happening is it's just being allowed to continue because the Nigerian government doesn't have the resources and a lot of times doesn't have the motivation to do anything about it. And the media worldwide doesn't really pick up on a lot of stories that are coming out of Nigeria. So it's a free-for-all, and it is a genocide because it is largely targeted at people of the Christian faith.
You talked about a refugee facility, and on the website we see that you have a facility called City of Refuge. And this is to be a safe place. And I'm going to ask a very ignorant question, but if this is a place where these folks are encouraged to gather, how do you keep that from being a target?
Because it's an absolute secret.
Okay. Now
that sensitive information.
That answers everything. And because at first I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, well, that's a wonderful, laudable effort, and then I'm thinking, well, okay, there must be something more to it. Okay, but that makes the point.
We don't even refer to the locations in our documents,
right?
But I also want to say, as a pastor, I'm a man of faith, and so I give credit to God for putting a hedge of protection around our refugee facility.
And that it just makes perfect sense because again, it demonstrates the severity of the situation. You have a safe place, but you cannot let anyone know where it is at, anything about it, for fear of there being attacks. And the photos that you have on the website are very carefully cropped to where there's no way we're going to know where it is.
That's right.
This obviously is a calling for you. And I'm just wondering about the connections that you have made and what has led you to take this on in such laudable but strident fashion.
Yeah, I mean, all I can do is just say God called me to do it in a very clear and vivid way. He gave me this calling, and I look at everything. I've pastored churches. I've started churches. I've been in ministry for about 25 years. All of that to me was a preparation for what I'm doing today. God prepared me all of those years. I thought pastoring a church, that's what I was going to do till I retired. Now I look at it like that was my schooling. That was my preparation for what I'm doing now. But God spoke to me, I'll say it that way, in a very vivid and clear way, and said that I needed to do this and be part of it. And God has opened the floodgates of opportunities and blessing, and He has protected us and guided us. It's clear to me now, looking back, that it was God all along the way. No doubt in my mind.
He is the founder and CEO of Across Nigeria, Pastor Brad Brandon. AcrossNigeria.org is the website, and the pastor is kind enough to join us live on News Talk 1540 KXEL. We talk a lot about sustenance for the body, food, planting of crops, etc. You're planting churches as well. Tell me about that.
Yeah, we're planting churches. We have planted churches in southern Nigeria, which is largely Christian. But we've also planted underground, we call underground churches in and throughout northern Nigeria. There's a lot of places where Christians have been run out, churches have been shut down, and the only way that the church can operate is underground. And those underground churches look a lot different than church does here in the U.S. I'm here in the U.S. now, but I travel back and forth, spend about half the time in Nigeria, half the time here. In Nigeria, the underground churches, they can't meet on Sundays, on Sunday mornings, because something regular like that is very much a target for people who are looking for Christians and to do Christians harm. So they have to meet on alternating days and alternating locations. Usually our churches meet in small groups, which are about 5 or 6 people gathered together to do Bible study or prayer meeting. And then every once in a while, we can get all of our groups together corporately and worship together. But then we have to stop for several months before we can do that again. So it looks very different. The underground church in northern Nigeria looks a lot different than church does here in the U.S.
The development of the country is limited, but I find it interesting that one of the original forms of immediate communication through spoken word, namely radio, which we've had just more than 100 years, that's a key part of connecting people these days in Nigeria through, across Nigeria, your radio outreach program.
Yeah, we have a radio outreach that broadcasts into northern Nigeria. We broadcast all kinds of variety programs that can benefit Fulani Muslims, benefit them societally, benefit them in farming, weather broadcasts, things like that. But we also have Bible study that we do on that station as well. And we incorporate that into our programming. So they get to learn more about Jesus and who the God of the Bible is through our program. And yeah, we've been doing that for the last 2 years. And it's been an amazing ministry where we have been able to reach thousands of Fulani Muslims with that radio program. We broadcast in both Hausa language, which is the language of northern Nigeria. I speak Hausa. And also we broadcast it in Fula, which is it's like the old language of the Fulani people, but we broadcast it in their language also.
Wow, that's just amazing. So for people listening, Pastor, who would like to support your effort, there's a nice subtle donate or give now button on the website, but how can people listening to our conversation help what you're trying to do with the group across Nigeria?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that they can do is pray for us. And with prayer involves knowing what's going on. If you go to our website, you can sign up for our weekly email update, what we call email update. And that just puts your email on a list, and every week we'll send your inbox, your email inbox, an update on what's happening and what's going on in Nigeria so that all of our followers know how to pray for us. We send out prayer requests. We even send out a prayer calendar that every day gives you a prayer request for our organization. And then, like you mentioned as well, financial support is a big part of what we do as well. So you can go on the website acrossnigeria.org, click on that Give Now button, and then it'll lead you to the prompts to be able to give however the Lord lays on your heart. We appreciate all of our donors and supporters.
It's important work, and again, as you have noted, well under the radar, and we need to fix that, and hopefully we've done that just a bit today. Pastor Brad Brandon, Thank you so much for taking the time, acrossnigeria.org, the website, to help that effort out. Blessings to you and yours, and best of luck with the continued effort.
All right, I appreciate it. Thanks, Jeff. Good talking to you.
Good to talk to you, sir. And Pastor Brad Brandon of Across Nigeria joined us live on the Newsline on News Talk 1540 KXEL, where Iowa comes to talk.